This is an exclusive excerpt from the Stuph File Program with Peter Anthony Holder.
On this show, we have another Backstage chat from Montreal's Just for Laughs Festival, and it is a very special guest, actor and comic Tom Arnold. Now, you've probably heard or read a lot over the years about Tom, especially in tabloids, and quite a bit of what has been written has been true. But what you don't often hear about Tom is that he's a hard-working, dedicated professional who has carved out a pretty good career for himself. He's talented, very loyal, perhaps to a fault, and the kind of guy you'd probably enjoy hanging around with. Tom has fun at whatever he does, and he appreciates the experiences and also those around him. It was a pleasure to be able to talk to him about his life and career, and here is that conversation with Tom Arnold right now.
Tom, you've had a great career so far. You've done over 70 films. You've had a sitcom. You've done stand-up. But I sometimes get the feeling that for some reason in your career, you have to keep explaining yourself to people, to either critics or media, who sometimes don't give you the, quite frankly, the due that you deserve. Do you feel that way?
Well, of course, I feel like, sometimes I overdo it, and people are like, "Why would you worry? Why do you care? Why do you, don't Google your name. Don't pay attention to critics. You've had enough. Whatever And I do feel very blessed. I mean, I worked at a meatpacking plant for 3 years before I did this, and I've had opportunities with 4 or 5 sitcoms, and I've have had these other things, but sometimes I'll take it more personally than I should. I remember once there was this kid that had a website called Tom Arnold is the Devil, and I read about it, and then I ended up contacting this person. I had no idea about them, and it turned out to be a kid that was like 22 and lived in his mother's basement, and he'd had no friends until he had this website called Tom Arnold is the Devil, and now he had a lot of, like 200 friends, and I felt so bad about me, this guy out of nowhere, he's trying to have a little bit of fun, and, I should be able to take that. That's part of the job. And so I was crushing him, and I said, put the site back up. In fact, I'll give you some stuff about proving that I am the devil, and I'll help you get back going. And so I always regret when I say something or do something because it does make me look like an ass because, I have been blessed and I have been lucky. But also part of being a comedian or being a performer is I think if everything had gone perfect and, it wasn't, if there weren't so many movies people could make fun of, and if there weren't so many opportunities, it wouldn't be as interesting. It's, I'm coming from a place of, a guy that's, just I have definitely survived, a lot worse things in show business before. And also, the fact that I'm still able to work is kind of amazing in a business that, most people aren't given much of a chance. And I'd be able to have chances and screw up and keep getting more chances. And it's because I work hard and I know I am very, very lucky. And so,
Yeah, but you keep saying lucky. You're also talented. Let's not leave that out of it. I mean, and I go back to that big theatrical film you had a couple of years ago when people first saw Tom Arnold in a serious role, and I think a lot of people were surprised. And I thought that would have been the film that would have put you over the hump, where people would say, yes, let's take Tom Arnold seriously.
Well, there's been, in the films I've done, there's been, it's been like starting with True Lies. True Lies is a movie, a big Hollywood movie that came out right as my divorce, my first divorce, a very public, ugly mess where everybody said he'll never work again. And then this movie comes out that I'd been working on for a year. And people in Hollywood went, oh, they didn't even know me, said, oh, maybe he is a decent guy. Not that, they never met me, but I was good in a good movie, right? And so that suddenly made me okay. And so there's been times in my career where I've then done too many movies or, thought, oh, well, they're working, I better take all these movies, I better do this, I better do that. And then, I've had to reboot and, maybe do like independent movies that are more, serious. And if you want to work with John Malkovich, you got to do something serious. And through that, what I call the struggle or whatever, because my biggest fear, the first time I did a serious movie was a movie called, that Steve Buscemi directed, called, now I'm blanking on the name of it, but Animal Factory, and it was a great movie written by Eddie Bunker, and with Mickey Rourke and a bunch of people, Steve and a whole bunch of people, Willem Dafoe, who ended up shivving me. But it was based in a prison, and the fact that I got an opportunity, my fear was people would come to the screening, see me come on as this, this rapist, prison rapist, and then start laughing. But, I got lucky, and they accepted me as a prison rapist, which is, I guess, also not a very compliment. But, I got to work with these great actors in this little movie. And so, and lately a lot of the stuff I've done has been very, very serious and personal to me. And, so I think a lot of comics, people that start off in comedy, it's the old phrase that comedy is hard and is true. It is harder than the dramatic stuff. But I've if I made a list, if I allowed myself to go and look at my career and the people I've worked with, my first scene in a movie was with Dustin Hoffman in a movie called Hero, which I had no idea how lucky I was. I was like, and I always, my first wife, I remember I knew her before she was famous. I knew her, she was coming up, but I always knew how talented she was. And as her friend, it was just so awesome to be a part of that, and be able to write a joke or two for her and just watch her rise and watch. And when she went on the Johnny Carson on the Tonight Show, and that was her big coming out. And he called her over, and I realized that once I got married to a famous person, I would never have, because you are tainted in a way that you will never. You're already famous. You won't have a coming out. And I thought, well, but it's worth it because I have a wife and stepkids. That's life, and I have these other opportunities. But I we were at the movies, and they had the coming attractions from this movie Hero, and I was only in 5 scenes, but it was pretty much the whole preview. And I was sitting in there in the theater with my stepkids and my wife, and looking around, thinking, well, this is my moment. This here with a little family, and that's me with Dustin Hoffman, and maybe it's not Johnny Carson like most comedians dream of, but this is how my life goes.
Well, with all the things you've done, and again, 72 movies, several television shows, now doing stand-up, is there something in your career that you want to do that you haven't had the chance to?
Well, I'm getting ready to do an hour-long stand-up special, and I've done, I did 3 HBO specials a while back, but it wasn't stand-up related. It was based on bits and chunks, and it was actually Judd Apatow's first job ever. And I hired him. I'd seen him. I found a lot of guys through stand-up comedy that became writers, and I guess proudest of the fact that I could recognize talent in others. And I would staff the Roseanne Show and Jackie Thomas and these other shows I did based on, I'd see good comics, and I'd say, I can teach you how to write the 2-act television script. I can't teach you how to be funny. And so a lot of people got their start via, me, and I it made me look good, obviously, but that's one of the things I'm proudest of. And there's comics here that have won Emmys and stuff that I saw them on stage and said, I know this guy's funny. I know he can write. He's going to make me look good. Bring him on, teach him this little form that we use. But the thing about comics, though, you got to remember is you always got to have a couple old timers with them, because you got to make sure the scripts are done on Thursday, and they aren't quite used to the television. You got to have it done. I mean, there's got to have it done, and so a lot of guys got their starts that way, and people have been very kind to me too. So I always feel like I wish I was in a clique with all the cool kids, and but I wouldn't trade. For as lucky as I've been, I wouldn't trade it.
Well, talking about the cliques, in your stand-up routine, you talk about working on films and the idea of it's a camaraderie, and you're friends with those who are in on the screen and on the scenes with. You also mentioned the fact that you're a good friend of the governor of California, who you also worked with in a film. It sounds like one of the things that you truly enjoy, besides the work itself, is the camaraderie and the friendships that come out of working in this business. Would that be a good assessment?
Well, yeah. I got a core group of guys that that I've been friends with for 20 years, and that are every once in a while I'll meet somebody and eventually get to know them, and they've been very supportive of me, and they're true friends that when you're down, and it's mostly about that. It's not really about the being in their movies or, working together, although we have. But it's about, when you're down and or they need help with a charity or you need help with a charity or whatever. And, Arnold's a good example. He taught me about the importance of charity work. He said if my agent doesn't know my charity work as much as he knows my movies, then he's gone. And he also said the only reason to have an agent is so there's one person in town that's not bad-mouthing you all the time. So, but I saw the joy early on in the late 80s when I got to know him that he got from doing this stuff. And so I would say, honestly, my greatest joy in life are the times when I'm at my kids' camp or I'm doing this or that, because I'm not thinking about me or what job I'm going to do. I'm playing with the kids and we're having fun and we're, it's not about me. And it's also very inspirational when, a kid that's had 2 heart transplants at 7 years old is, climbing the rock wall before me and, kayaking and living in the moment. I worry about things that are so stupid sometimes. I constantly am worried that I read people make a lot of jokes and have a lot of fun at my expense. But if I wasn't, on the flip side, if I wasn't so well known, they couldn't make that. And so it's funny. Last week on Monday, I got a call. Last week ago Friday. A week ago for today, actually, from Tom Cruise that he wanted to do a table reading for a script, and to me that's a big honor. That's like playing with the cool kids, and Will Smith's producing it, and they had a bunch of big actors there, and had this table read, and then afterwards, people filmed it outside, the paparazzi, and they were calling it a Scientology meeting and whatever, and I just thought to myself, this guy, there's nobody nicer than Tom Cruise or Will Smith. I mean, seriously, and nobody funnier than Will. He's the funniest dude. He could do the Eddie Murphy thing. He could do concerts. He could do whatever. And, people are trying to make this something weird out of this. I also thought if I were Tom Cruise, and, being a comedian, I would use all that material, I would not let, people make snarky remarks. I would take a hold of it. And that's my goal is when I hear people make fun of me, I think, why didn't I think of that? Why didn't I get the joke?
Well, I have to say this, and I hope you don't take this the wrong way, but I've been watching you on stage for the last couple of days here in Montreal. I've seen you interact with the comics backstage, seen you interact with the crew, with the people who work here, and I don't know if you've seen the movie Up. Mm-hmm. But there's the dog in Up who just wants to please, who just wants the friendship of the people around him, and that's what I see in you. And you seem like the happiest person when you're on stage, and I think that's a joy not just for yourself, but the audience gets it too. So on behalf of the audience, I'd like to thank you for all you've done.
I think it's when I'm bonding with the audience, it is real. I mean, I feel like I owe them. When they come to since I started touring a year ago, the fact they would spend their hard-earned money and come out to a show to see me, is it just freaks me out. And so, of course I'm going to stay around and hang out. And I think it's the good news and the bad news. I'm not Tom Hanks or Tom Cruise. I mean, if you saw them in an airport, you'd be like, "Oh my God!" But if a person sees me, they're like, "Oh my God, it's my cousin Tom Arnold." I'm gonna go up and punch him in the arm, or talk and so there's definitely a connection that he's one of us, and that's. That's all I'd ever want, and so, and to be able to tell stories from from an outsider's perspective, which is what I do in my act, because people know my history. I can't lie and say I just got married for the first time and whatever's going on, and I just talk about my mistakes and my positives. I sense that people are genuinely happy that I'm in a good marriage. They are happy that I'm not a jerk towards my ex-wives. That I have some gratitude for everything that's happened, and I think it gives people a relief. I think that people a lot of times they care about the people in Los Angeles and New York. And between there's a lot of America, a lot of real folks. And those are the people that, if you make fun of somebody too much, if you make fun of George W. Bush or Sarah Palin too much, they'll elect him president because they think you're making fun of them. And I think that's probably what happens with me, too.
Well, I thank you very much for taking the time to talk with us, Tom. It's a pleasure to have you on the program with us.
Well, it's been great working with you at this festival. You've made it a lot better for me, and thank you very much.
That was a chat with actor and comic Tom Arnold. We could have chatted forever because Tom was just such a warm and giving individual, but we both had work to do backstage, so that chat had to come to an end. I've mentioned this on the program before, and this is one of the reasons I love working backstage at Just for Laughs. You get to hang out and really talk with kind, talented folks like Tom Arnold. By the way, you can check out Tom's website at tomarnoldcomedy.com, and you can go to my website at thestufffile.com, and again, stuff is spelled S-T-U-P-H. Go to the What's On page for this show, which is show number 0048, and you'll find links to Tom's site.
You've just heard an exclusive excerpt from the Stuph File Program with Peter Anthony Holder. To hear any or all of the full hour-long shows, visit thestufffile.com. Stuff is spelled S-T-U-P-H. That's thestufffile.com. A presentation of Flying Fish Communications.